Hello friends, the readings for the sixth Sunday of Easter, and they offer something quite relevant to our present situation, which I hope is drawing to an end. I hope that this is the last of these recordings, simply because we'll be back in church next Sunday. And as of the time of recording, I can't guarantee that, because there are several steps to go through before we can open the church or the hall. But we do have hope to overcome those barriers by Monday the 18th of May and reopen the church during the week that follows. The first reading is from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 17. Paul is in Athens, and he stood in front of the Areopagus. It's a rock high up above the Agora, the meeting place in Athens, with about halfway up of the hill towards the Acropolis. When I was there, I sat on the Areopagus for quite some time and thought about this speech of Paul to the Athenians. As a young philosophy student, I could really appreciate what Paul was trying to do. He was trying to remove God from the abstract on the one hand, and from the extreme concrete on the other. The Greeks had two sorts of gods. They had the same names, but they are thought of in two different ways. There was the very philosophical way, and basically the philosophers didn't believe in the gods. They just thought they were an aspect of the one true God, whom they didn't know. The ordinary people tended not to philosophise about the gods. The god of harvest was there to give them aid during the harvest and so on. Paul wasn't happy with either of these. Not just because they were idols, but that's sometimes thought of as the reason he spoke so strongly. The reason Paul is passionate about this is because God is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, says Paul, we too are his offspring. Seeing we are God's offspring, we're not to think that the deity is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and imagination of mortals. While God has overlooked the times of human ignorance, now he calls everybody to turn around, because he's going to judge the world by a man of his appointing. And as this he has given assurance to all by raising him from the dead. Paul tackles the issue head on. God is a personal God. God is the parent of us all. We are all his offspring. And yet appointed one of us to be the judge. How can one person be the judge of all? Peter also, in the second reading, wants to give assurance to the people he is writing to who are suffering for their faith. Don't be afraid. Even if you suffer for doing right, you are blessed. And you behave like this so that you may be a blessing to others. Christ has suffered for sins once for all to bring you to God, so you can bring others to God. But the gospel is what really speaks to us. It's only short. Follows up from last week's, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. What does it mean to love Jesus? It doesn't mean just to sing songs praising him and saying, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. You can do that all day and not love him. The opposite is true too. You can love Jesus without even knowing his name. That's a horror to some people, but it's true. It's possible to love Jesus without knowing his name, without knowing anything about him, by loving the same things he loved and by obeying his commandments. His commandments, what were they? Well, they came terribly simple. Love one another is the first one. As I have loved you, so you love one another. It's not a soft sort of love. It's not erotic love. It is agape love, the love which gives of oneself unstintingly, generously, without limits. The essence of Jesus is loving. If you love, you keep God's commandments. You keep Jesus' commandments. The Pharisees made the mistake of expanding the commandments into many rules. Jesus took the opposite approach. It's really the only thing he differs from the Pharisees on. They were good people, righteous people. They simply multiplied obligations, but Jesus reduced them to two. Love God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, and love your neighbour as yourself. Love one another as I have loved you. And then, says Jesus, I will give you another advocate, another comforter, one who stands beside you, as the Greek word parakletos says. This is the only place in the Bible where the idea of the one standing beside is set out. In chapters 14 to 16 of John's Gospel, the Holy Spirit is described as the one who stands beside us. In other places, Jesus speaks of the Spirit as being in you, as well as beside you. Don't get muddled. He's only using images and metaphors to try and get across the idea of the intimate relationship with God, which is ours in Jesus. The Holy Spirit is with you, in you, staying with you, no matter what. He says, I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. Orphaned is an interesting word there. I will not leave you without parents. I will not leave you without support in the world. I am coming to you. The form in which Jesus was coming to them was the Holy Spirit. And as we approach Ascension Day this Thursday, we see that there are many metaphors for the way the Spirit is with us. Jesus ascended into heaven so that he mightn't be confined to one place anymore. So he could be wherever the Spirit was, wherever the Spirit needed to be. And where is the Spirit? In those who love Jesus. Those who have my commandments, who have them, means they've made them their own. They've taken them into themselves. The simple commandments of loving one another and keep them are those who love me. To love Jesus is to love one another. The two great commandments. To love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul and all your strength, and your neighbour as yourself. Those two great commandments which we say at the beginning of our Holy Communion service are really one commandment. To love God is to love your neighbour. To love your neighbour is to love God. The first epistle of John spells that out in great detail, but it's a simple principle. If you think you love God but don't love your neighbour, you'd better take another look and have another think. The message of these readings is not complicated. God is our Father, and as Paul says to the Athenians, God is everybody's Father, if you like, and Mother as well. To love God, to love our Father, is to love the Son, Jesus. And to love the Son is to love one another. You can see the message curves back on itself. It's a recursive sort of thing, which the Gospel of John loves, piling the images on one another and then coming back to them and exploring them in different ways. But let me leave you with a simple message. Love one another. There's an old story, may not be historically true, but never mind, of the Apostle John when he was very old. And he said he had a message for his people. So they wheeled him out in his bed in front of the congregation, and the congregation gathered round him to hear the magic words that he would say before he died. His message was very simple. 5 words. Little children, love one another. I reckon if I could go to my deathbed with those words on my lips, I'd be happy. We look forward to exciting things. Maybe we'll even be able to celebrate Pentecost in St. Nicholas's church. With only a limited number of people allowed in the church at one time, we might have to have 2 or 3 goes at it so that we can get everybody in turn. The instructions which cover that sort of thing will come out in the next day or so. Meanwhile, let your hopes rise and let your joy be complete, and love one another. The Lord be with you.
In the secret place, I feel your embrace. In the refuge of your wings, I find my home. In the secret place, I seek your face. I don't follow the ways of the world. This isn't a show. So bear me, mold me, use me, take me, stretch me, tear me, change me, shape me. I'm living for you, Lord. Pull me apart till I burn with your fire and your dream. is you.